Nice. Freeing. Oh. What is that?
I think we received a message. Who's it from?
The Bureau. As a new Nemo Prime, it is your duty to verify that your timeline does not present any integral anomaly.
And they detected one.
A possible one.
Of course they have. What is it? What am I looking at?
Circle pits. A specific, more organized type of mosh pit found at punk and metal concerts.
Yeah, I got that part.
Classified under collective rotational synchronization.
It's a very dramatic name for people running in circle.
They rotate counterclockwise.
Sure, that happens. People pick a direction.
Nemo? They always rotate counterclockwise.
Psst, no they don't.
There are no verified clockwise instances.
That's impossible. Isn't it? Hello there, I'm Nemo, and this is day one of me trying to figure out an anomaly about the directionality of circle pits. So let's start from the beginning. A circle pit is essentially a mosh pit with a sense of direction. Concert goers, they clear a space in the crowd and they run laps around it, feeding off the energy of the music. And apparently, according to Reginald, they all go counterclockwise, which is a little hard to believe. So, Reggie, how many videos of circle pits do you have?
129.
Okay, show me. Okay, so they all go counterclockwise.
Well, I told you.
Yeah, but I was expecting at least one or two going clockwise, you know?
There has to be a rational explanation.
I hope so. Otherwise, we're doomed. Oh yeah, I did some research online and I found this paper by Silverberg et al. 2013, and it was an insightful read. Turns out the chaotic motion of people in a mosh pit follow the same statistical distribution as molecules bouncing around in a gas, and tweaking just a single parameter, the tendency to follow one's neighbor, the simulation spontaneously produced vortex-like circular motion that is undistinguishable from what you would see in real circle pits. Humbling, honestly, that beings with our enormous brains and behavior can be faithfully reproduced by a model that treats us as something as dumb as gas particles. But the model said nothing about direction, clockwise or counterclockwise. It was a random 50-50. So there is something else, something not accounted for in the simulation that constantly tips the scale in one direction. But what is it? Do individuals always go counterclockwise when running in a circle alone? Or is that consistency something only a crowd can produce? I think I need to call some friends.
Hey Nemo!
Hey Sammy, I'm running an experiment, so could you please run in a circle for me?
Sure!
Perfect. Thank you. Hey there.
Hey, Nemo.
Could you take a few steps back and please run 2 or 3 laps in a circle? Thank you. Thanks. Thank you. Hey, I'm running an experiment, so could you please run in a circle for me?
Yes, of course I can do that for you. Here I go.
Okay, so 3 out of 3 people just went counterclockwise. I think I need to figure out a way of asking more people. Hey, this is day 3. I made a few more calls and I even went to a hardcore festival in Aschaffenburg, Germany, and I got more people running. So here is the result. I asked 25 people and the vast majority went counterclockwise. Only 2 people went clockwise. I'm mind blown. Has anybody ever noticed this? I'm a little scared, you know? How can this not be an anomaly? How can this not be a glitch? This makes absolutely no sense. Hurricanes, they rotate in opposite directions in the northern and southern hemispheres. It is one of the most striking examples on how Earth rotation influences large-scale fluid dynamics. Does it apply here? This is called the Coriolis effect, and if it had anything to do with circopit, we would expect them to run in the opposite direction in the southern hemisphere, like in Australia or Brazil. Of course, they don't. Coriolis is an incredibly weak force, and it only becomes visible when you're talking about enormous masses of air or water moving over very long distances. It does not apply at a small scale. And this is why, contrary to what you may have heard, toilets do not flush differently depending on which hemisphere you're in. So of course that's at that end. We're not looking for a planetary mechanism. If to read any logical explanation, physical explanation, it's going to be at a more local scale.
Hey, do you know what the unit for measuring the weight of light is?
Nope.
The hologram. Can't touch me.
I've been thinking about snails. I know you think I've gone mad, but hear me out. Most snail species, they coil clockwise. It's not a choice, it is not learned, it is determined in the first few cell divisions of the embryo. Before the snail has anything resembling a nervous system, it is an ancient and molecular preference.
Some species are entirely sinistral, counterclockwise as a fixed species-wide trait. The lightning whelk, for instance.
Right, and within normally clockwise species known as dextral, you occasionally get counterclockwise individuals. It is rare, but they exist. And it's also difficult for them to mate with other members of their own species because their reproductive organs are on the wrong side. And what I'm trying to say is that nature shows already consistent asymmetric preferences, directional biases. That's what we call laterality. And this laterality exists in humans too. Not only in structure, think about like the position of your organs in the body, but also in cognition and behavior. The lateralization of the brain, for example, with functions being handled better by a specific hemisphere, giving rise to things like handedness or the fact that language is mostly processed by the left hemisphere. Now, could this aspect of our biology quietly nudge a crowd of people into rotating one way without any of them actually thinking about it? I don't know. We're all gonna die. Hey, day 8 here. I'm quite happy. I found a few papers that I will add to the supplementary materials. They are not specifically about circopits, but they essentially show that humans do have a left turning or a counterclockwise bias. Most people have a dominant hand, a dominant foot, and a dominant eye. And we can hypothesize that these asymmetries add up to a slight directional bias in locomotion. I read about a few proposed mechanisms. the dominant right foot pushes off harder, which might bias the body into a left curve. Or for most of us, our dominant hand on the right side, the external side of the circle, feels more secure. Maybe we are subconsciously trying to protect our hearts from impacts due to the centrifugal force. It is also the brain lateralization argument. The right hemisphere processes spatial perception and is dominant in many visual tasks, giving you better spatial awareness on your left side because of how your eye is wired with your brain, which may make left-handed curves feel more comfortable and natural. You'd have a better sense of where you are going. The problem is that if all of this was true, we'd expect significantly more variance in turning direction across the population. Left-handed individuals, for instance, should show a measurably higher tendency to turn clockwise. And currently the data doesn't really support that. So maybe the biological mechanism is not sufficient as an explanation. Maybe there is an additional mechanism that amplifies a population level preference into what looks like a universal one. Something beyond innate lateralization. Maybe something cultural.
Hey, this timeline has previously come under pressure from external entities with an interest in its termination. Continued funding directly increases our operational capacity and therefore our ability to resist. You can contribute to more transmissions at higher quality using a platform called Patreon. For just a few credits of standard timeline currency per month, we can keep the resistance alive. Don't let them win. Medieval castle stairs.
What?
Spiral staircases in medieval castles. The direction they coil.
Clockwise when ascending, right? So right-handed defenders had more room to swing a sword.
Yeah, you've probably heard the story a million times, but it's made up. About 30% of documented castle staircases actually go counterclockwise. If the military advantage was real, why would anyone build a counterclockwise staircase in their own castle?
Well, they would not.
Exactly. And nobody in the medieval period ever wrote down that this was the reason. Not once. The earliest known source is a 1902 essay by an English art critic. Within a few decades, it had been repeated enough times to become a fact. 70% did go clockwise, not because of swords, we just don't know why. Maybe one person built it that way, the next person copied it and it became the default. People just built what they had seen built. That's it.
So a convention that self-reinforces the more it repeats. Huh. You're smart.
I know.
It's true that so many things in our lives go counterclockwise. Athletic tracks, horse racing, speed skating, baseball, cycling, velodrome, almost every oval sport you can name. When the first modern Olympics ran their track events clockwise in 1896, athletes complained that it felt unnatural. So the IOC standardized counterclockwise in 1913. Nobody really wrote down why it felt wrong. It just did. But the tendency to go counterclockwise in a sports event goes way back. Chariot races at the Circle Maximus in ancient Rome were counterclockwise. So all those things, they have just always gone counterclockwise. Every sports video you've watched, every circle pit you've ever been near, your brain has absorbed that information and it probably does push you to mimic what you have seen countless times during your lifetime. It's my last calm thought for a while. I land on my feet and I land mad. This is one of my favorite strips in all of Hellboy. I really like it, even though I prefer Mignola's later drawing style. Hey Reggie, do you think that our left to right scanning bias has anything to do with circle pits?
What do you mean?
Well, a counterclockwise oval means that athletes leading by writing to perceive left to right ordered, forward moving. And filmmakers and comics artists, they do know this. Right to left motion in film is perceived as negative or less active than left to right. Hergé draws Tintin, moving left to right when things are going well. Also, most 2D video games, they go from left to right, so you probably did not notice, but your brain did. So a counterclockwise oval doesn't just feel better to run, maybe it also looks better to watch. And maybe circle pits follow the same logic. Viewed from outside, a counterclockwise circle pit moves left to right. It looks energetic, ordered, and possibly inviting. In contrast, a clockwise pit moves right to left. And some quiet part of your brain registered that as slightly wrong, slightly less like something you would like to jump into. Thank you, Mignola. Mignola, right? Oh, I don't get it. Okay, culture, biology, this is all great together. Nature and nurture making us left-turning creatures. Okay, but shouldn't we have a tiny small amount of clockwise circle pits? I don't think that biology and culture can explain this. That is just crazy bean stuff. I do not get it. Maybe it's just something about the collective itself. The crowd as a system that takes a strong preference and turns it into something that looks absolute. Think about the solar system, for example. It formed from a rotating cloud of gas and dust, and as it collapsed, it spun faster, just like a figure skater pulling in their arms. And the original rotation just never went away. 4 billion years later, every planet and most moons still orbit the same way, because nothing was ever strong enough to override the initial angular momentum of the solar system. The system chose a direction once at the very beginning and kept it. Yeah, this is just like the ant mill, you know, the ant spiral of death. If army ants, they lose their pheromone trail, they start following each other. And because every ant follows the ant in front, the whole colony locks into a loop, rotating endlessly until they die of exhaustion. Exhaustion. They're tired and they tire. It's a collective behavior trap. Once it starts, it is mathematically stable. Small perturbations don't break it. One ant going the wrong way just gets reabsorbed. And this is what physicists call an attractor. Think of it as a marble or a ball in a bowl. Ball in a bowl. You can nudge it up the sides, it will always go back down. The bottom of the ball is where the system wants to be. So I started wondering, what if circle pits work the same way? What if biology and culture do not need to be a very strong force? They just need to be strong enough to tip the first few seconds, and then the crowd does the rest. I think I need to run some simulations.
Je perds la raison, éclairé par la saveur de l'ombre, attiré sans même me morfondre. Je ne peux que m'y fondre et ne plus jamais m'effondrer. Et toi, ne vois-tu pas le même monde que moi? Effrayé par ce sommeil si court, je plonge dans ses yeux, suis-je vraiment courageux? Je compte les tentations que je m'inflige, elles seules peuvent révéler mes vertiges. Accompagné de ma solitude, je vais vers le bas, je prends de l'altitude.
So I took the simulation of Silverberg et al. And I added 2 parameters on top of the standard alignment and collision mechanics. A directional bias, so how often a particle tends to turn left rather than right, and a strength parameter, how hard it turns when it does. And I ran all of that across thousands of conditions.
And this is the result. If you look at omega, the mean angular velocity of the circle pit, which captures how fast the crowd rotates around its own center and in which direction, you see that a circle pit is a system with 2 low energy stable states, 2 attractors, counterclockwise and clockwise.
Like 2 balls sitting side by side. Once the marble, in my case a ping pong ball, dips into one, it just stays there. The flocking dynamics amplify whatever direction gets started and actively resist any deviation. It's difficult from this point to come back in the other ball.
The other important result is that the fraction of left turners or the strength of turns are not directly translated into the probability of going counterclockwise or clockwise. For the system to go consistently in one direction 100% of the time, you do not need 100% of people who prefer that direction.
All you need is a relatively higher fraction of left preferring agents with a preference just strong enough to break the initial symmetry. So we might have solved it, Reggie. We might have solved it. Conclusion. Why do circle pits always go counterclockwise? The honest answer is we cannot say with certainty. But here is what I think is happening. A circle pit is a 2-state system, counterclockwise or clockwise. And the system itself is indifferent to direction, but something breaks the symmetry in those first few seconds. A quiet biological nudge reinforced over centuries by cultural convention until the 2 combined are just consistently enough just above the threshold to push the system into the counterclockwise well every single time. And all of this seems to be a coherent story. It might even be the right story, but the truth is that this is actually very hard to prove.
While the attractor model quite convincingly explains why collective motion locks into one absolute direction, we don't have a good way to test what is pushing individuals to prefer turning counterclockwise in the first place.
We do not have proper controls. Every person we could test has already been contaminated somehow. If you grew up reading left to right, watching films, going to concerts, playing video games, you carry all those biases simultaneously. And it's very difficult to isolate the biological component from the cultural one, because they have been reinforcing each other our entire life. But if this is not proof, those are hypotheses, plausible explanations, and I hope they are convincing enough for you not to shut down the timeline. And if you decide to terminate it, well, at least I guess I had some fun with my last video. Did I have fun? Okay, I had fun. I hope you had fun. Okay, done, just in time. Can you send that to the bureau?
Done.
Good, thank you.
What?
No, I'm just thinking that we might have saved our universe by making people run in a circle. That's it.
Yeah, I'm so fresh like the morning. Mouth wide open like they yawning. Every time they see me, they in G-Shock. Homie, this is too far. Homie, I feel too alive. You can see me like Illuminati. You can see me like Illuminati. But I'm shining so bright, so bright. Don't come and try to share some of this light, no. Give me a beat and I control it like a maestro. Ladies on a mission, they be trying